right, what's going on, everybody? Christopher Franks with Texas West Capital coming at y'all live here just after 11 a.m. Central Standard Time on Friday, 11th of April, 2025. Do you know where your taxes are? You better know because they're going to come due next week. But, you know, if you need some time, you can always apply for an extension into October, right? That's what we all want to do, right? Extend from April 15th to October 15th. And then the last week, right before October 15th, you're like, oh my God, I got to do my taxes, right? Come on. We all know. Anyway, good to see y'all here. Listen, Fibble's with me here waiting in the curtains in the back. I don't have curtains here, metaphorical curtains. You're going to find out he doesn't have curtains either. This man does not know what window treatments are. So you'll have to yell at him if you can't see him, all right? But hey, guys, listen, you know the drill. Hit the thumbs up, hit the likes. Do me a favor, share the link. I'd really appreciate that. Fibble would really appreciate that. So we can get our information out there. Leave a comment afterward. And every once in a while we get somebody that just, you can tell when people are really emotional by the comments they leave. And they're generally not nice. But it is what it is, I guess. Doesn't bother me any. Your feelings and emotions are yours. You have to deal with them, right? If you're not listening to actually what's being said, which happens a lot, again, that's on you. So hopefully you guys will get some goodness out of this. Let me pull up the main man here, Mr. Fibba Swanee. What's up, man?
Oh, not much. You brought up taxes and made me think of like, oh, no, mine set for the government will scrape my account on the 14th and pull the money. So there you go.
Didn't Trump promise us no more IRS?
He did, but not in time for April 15th. Let's try for next April 15th, maybe.
Yeah,
it is what it is. I went through that brutal process. It's weird because when you sit and you're doing it, and it's such a headache. And it's for a couple of things. It's weird that we have to figure out how much the government needs from us instead of them just sending us an invoice. That's one.
Exactly, right? It's like, hey, do you know how much? Yeah. Can you let me know? No.
That's the first thing. And then the second thing is
you're going to jail. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's just crazy. Or at least fined up the ass. But the other thing is like when you're doing it, you're like, they can just print money. Like what? I mean, like, what are we doing here? No, I'm just messing.
The taxes really aren't to pay for government stuff, guys. Taxes really are a form of control, a control of the populace. Just if you didn't know that, it really is. It is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, but they are going
to fix your roads.
Yep. Other than that, everything's rocking and rolling. I put a post out today because everybody's talking about the boringness of things sometimes. Even though we got volatility, we still really aren't really getting out of the weeds yet or anything like that. And I always talk about patience. And I put a let me find it. I put a quote out there today. Patience is not just a virtue; it's a position. Whether you're waiting on life or the perfect trade, sometimes the best move is to not move at all. And as I go through these charts, you're going to see why I haven't moved lately on a lot of things because I'm just waiting. I'm just letting the market come to me, not me go to the market. And sometimes it kind of sucks.
Well, but that's the best way to do it, right? I mean, you and I, we've been doing this decades. And, the one thing I think you have to learn if you want to stay in the game is always let the market come to you. Don't go chasing the market, and sometimes depending on what kind of time frame you're trading on, it may be a while it's sitting on your thumb. Until it makes that move, but it keeps you from getting in and out and getting chopped up, as it's going. So, yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, hey, I know you've got to go a little bit earlier today, so why don't we pull up your chart here, your green chart?
Yeah.
Green chart.
I know it's a weird color, but that was the best color I could find that doesn't hurt my eyes when I look at 10,000 charts a day.
What do you mean weird, man? That's pistachio. Love pistachio ice cream. So,
Yeah, that's exactly. I got pistachio screens. I like it. All right. I'm going to go through Bitcoin. I'm going to kind of reiterate a chart that I had when I did with Crown, just kind of reiterate what I was looking at. The other day I recorded with him, so I'll go through that. But I got a few charts for Bitcoin. But starting out with the 4-hour, this is the one that I'm kind of talking about with patience. I've been waiting for a new bull zone here, and even this latest move to the upside still has not clicked to the point where it would move into the bull zone. Not a lot of momentum behind either side. A lot of consolidation kind of look when you're looking at the internals of the market. So I've been kind of waiting for that bull zone here. But the only thing I've kind of done was while we're in the bear zone, I did take a couple scalp trades that really aren't threshold related. But what was happening here was I had a 200% extension off the zone here as it goes into the bear zone. That would be the spot that you would want to buy. And I had my order in at 76.5. And at the time, we were looking right here when this came down to this point. I looked over here to see where the 38.2% level was, because I was going to use that as a target to the upside, and it was right around 79.5. So what I did when this came down to this point, and I bought here at 76.5, I had a limit order at 79.5 to hit up here, and it did. So I took some profit, came back down, bought it again just for kicks and giggles, because if we're going to be inside a consolidation, while in the bear zone, I want to buy my targets and sell at the shallow fib just for some quick trades. So I did that one, and then went down and came back up, and I hit it again. So 2.5% trades. So I got 5% out of just sitting around doing nothing, just waiting for this thing to kind of break out. Now, one thing that did happen was you did break this trend line on this large red candle, and then it came back down and actually went right at the break point where the support should be, which is good. So if you're trading the trend line break, which is not threshold related, but if you're trading that, you're still in this market with a target just above the next fib extension level, which would be at 80, basically 86.8 is where that trend line objective would be. So if you bought the break, you do have a target there. So what I'm waiting for is if we get into this bull zone, which right now it looks like it needs to be, let me pull this over here, 84.5, and this changes, as the market moves, but it's roughly right around that area. So if you can get up to 84.5, get into the bull zone, it would be a market order to go right into the market on that threshold, and then the target on a new bull zone would be up here at the 200% at 91.8. So if you get bought on a market here on this new bull zone, that's where that level would be. Otherwise, since we're in the bear zone, I'm not looking to buy this again until it gets down into this extension. Because once this 200% hit, you go back in history and it matches this low really well. So I put this fib in here going up to the high, and then looking to see where the next extensions are. And then this target right here comes from way back when, at the start of one of my thresholds here. That's where that comes from. That falls kind of nicely inside the fib extension level. So that's where I would buy again if it ends up dropping back down. Otherwise, I'm trying to be patient and just kind of waiting it out. That's the 4-hour. Just a little, just some targets to look at for there. Going on to the daily. Now, the daily was an interesting one because this target, and I bought twice. I marked it here that I had an order in at 78.4. I rounded up right at that point, and it hit right here, and then it hit again. So even though it went up to this point right here, did not go into the bull zone, came back down. I decided to buy more because of the weekly, and I'll show you that here in a second. And as this dipped down to 74.4, I actually got bought again because the shallow fib level on my weekly got hit. So I wanted to add more to build a good foundation to give me a good risk reward, because if the weekly ends up holding the shallow fib and holds that bull zone, this is a nice area to kind of build a foundation for a floor and then head higher. And then if it ends up breaking, I'll take a loss and go back to the drawing board. But right now, this is really all I'm doing on the daily, is just kind of holding these longs. And right now, that's the only positions I have on in BTC at the moment is the daily. I don't buy the weekly. I just use it as a guide, and I just put it into my. I don't have a weekly bucket. I do have capital in a BTC daily bucket, and that's where I would want to put it. But here, I'm just the same kind of thing. I'm just waiting for a bull zone to add to position. ADX, trend strength measurements still kind of sideways, range bound. So anything can happen. We're still in this area of limbo, or what I call liminal space, that where emotions get the highest, because the uncertainty is just, we just don't know. Is this thing going to crash to $50 or 50K, or is it going back to 100K? I'm still leaning toward the upside as long as that weekly is holding. And Crown asked me that at the end of the show. What's your gut say? My gut says I think we hold, and hold that support on the weekly. I could be wrong, but then again, that's where you have risk management to if we are wrong, then you have those safeguards in place to protect yourself.
And real quick here, let me just say something real quick here. What I like about the structure coming off that all-time high is here down around this 80,000 level, we have just slightly lower lows, right? So we've got this consolidation happening, which is why, again, your what is that, the ADX there? Why it's kind of just, where it's not really strong, because we've just got those slightly lower lows, slightly lower highs, in the grand scheme of things here, right around that 80,000 level. Most often that results in some sort of bounce or reversal, because again, that's telling us that demand is showing up, right? Demand is coming in and really kind of overcoming somewhat the supply in that area. So I like that. What I'm telling everybody at the Academy to watch is the 88.5 level. So whatever exchange you're looking at, it's right about that level. It's the last structural lower high off that all-time high. It's that, it looks like a wick there on yours.
Right here?
About there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
the high there was 88,530.
Yeah. So if we're breaking out above that, like on a daily or whatever, that's going to break that bearish market structure. And usually what I tell people to do is you want to break out above that level, and then you want to wait for a pullback and then a breakout above your breakout. And that kind of is as close to confirmation as you can get. Again, as we both know, there's no guarantees in trading, but if you can get a breakout and then a pullback and then a breakout above your breakout, it's usually a pretty good indication that low is in and it's going the other way. Or if it was the other way, and going down, that you do that. So I like it.
Yeah. And another thing is my bull zone here is at 87,841, which is a little bit lower than the 88.5. But if it ends up getting past that 87, it's going to be above this trend line, which is a good sign, but it has to have 3 settlements above that 85.4. So if we get the 3 settlements above the 85.4, once it goes into the bull zone, it's going to be pretty close to the same kind of thing you're talking about, where if it gets up to the 88.5 and we start getting above that, all of that together could be a nice confluence that it should start to launch back to the upside. So all of that's kind of, but then again, like you said, these slightly lower lows. What I'm looking at is this ADX. The red negative directional index was really pumping back in here, and that's why we got this move to the downside. But now the ADX has been, under 20 here for a while, so it needs to get kind of back above that 20 level, because when this red negative directional index tried to get this downside again, it really didn't build any momentum to it. And that to me is kind of that divergence to say, hey, it's taking less sellers maybe to make those lows. I guess that's the theory behind it. But right now the ADX it's just been on this downtrend. It tried right there, but it only got to like 19, and I'd like to get it to 20. Really, 25 is a really good number to kind of get that threshold and that kind of thing going. So I'm hoping that once this gets popping up above this trend line and get into the bull zone, get us those 3 settles, this ADX is pumping above 20, and the green positive directional index is also increasing as the price is increasing, which it should, because it's math. And you want that to kick in all at the same time. And that will give me a lot more confidence But right now it's like I said, liminal space. So I'm being cautiously optimistic. And what I mean by that is I'm still bullish, but I want to have exposure, but I want to keep my exposure low to the point where if I end up getting stopped out, it's not going to wipe out the last 2 months of my gains. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So moving over into the weekly, one of the things I was looking here, one, definitely holding the bull zone still, which is good. And it also went down and went just underneath the shallow fib. My shallow fib was at 75.364. My order was I had a limit at 75.4. It actually dipped down below that. And that's where I was talking about getting bought here. So that weekly hitting there is where I got the 30% long on the daily, is when that hit right there. And so far it's coming back up. Again, ADX is in the 20s, which is good. But the red negative directional index is still elevated just a little bit. So that not quite out of the woods yet, but we are bouncing from support, which is good. And a couple other things, like, let me blow this up. A couple other things I look for is the 127, 141 is always my first line of defense to see if we're going to reverse or not. When you're moving into a trend and it starts to extend past a high, that's my first line of defense that I look for. And as you can see right here on this run to the upside, it did not. It went straight through, but it came back down and held the support here for a little bit, and then it broke back down. So but the interesting thing is, and what I'm looking for is 3 consecutive settles underneath the, what level is that? 88.5 here, or 83.5. But it had 1, 2, and then the third one settled back above it. Then we had 1, 2, and then we're on this third one again. So I would like to see this candle here close the week back above this 83.548. And that will give me even a little bit more confidence to know that this low here is basically in and pushing us higher. Now, if it doesn't, I think we're going to come back down and retest that shallow fib again. And if it does, and this momentum keeps building for the bears, that could be problematic.
Yeah.
And what I'm looking at there is, for me, it's going to take 3 settles underneath this. So if I get 3 settles under 75.3 on a weekly basis, so it's going to take almost a whole month to figure that out.
Patience.
But if it does, then my limits are going to be down here at 54. I'll be holding out for a much, much larger correction to the downside, which hopefully doesn't happen. But if it does, that's just the game plan you got to do when you're looking at this weekly. Now, if this ends up holding and rallying into the upside, I have this next target as support holds up there at 122. Would be that next level to really watch here on the weekly to get a nice target. And another thing that I'm also looking at is I kind of look at these like little breaks, like this one right here, when we break to the upside. If you take the start of this move, and I do a trend-based extension off the break there, and a lot of this has to do with other charts and time frames. But when you break to this point and come down, that first line of defense right here, once we made this new high right here, the first line of defense here is between 108.4 and 115. And as you can see, we got to the 109, which touched in it really nicely, which is good. And we took profit at 108, and then started to come back to the downside here. So that was that first line of defense. But if this ends up holding here, then that next target is going to be this 122, and then after that we can look at, because it would break this. If it got up to the 122, it would break this area, and then the 142 would kind of come into play off of this trend-based extension. So I'm kind of looking at that, and then also if you took a trend line right here and then do the start of this break to the upside, and then you look at this point. I think I got the starts right there. The target right here is pretty close. Yeah. I know it's really hard to see probably on this chart, but I'm looking at this trend line break right here, and this is where I'm starting the break, and then work our way up. So this says 123.021. and this is 122,488. So that somewhere in that range is going to be that next target. And then you get up to this area here, which the 200% kind of matches that extension pretty close. I mean, within 500, $600 maybe. So if we get up to that next target and it breaks to that high, that's that next line of defense that I'm going to look for. So these are kind of my levels to watch if we really want to start taking off to the upside. Otherwise, if this breaks, we'll be looking to doing the same thing, but the other way and looking for 50K. Which let's not look at that because everything's still looking good. Bull zone, bull zone supports finding buying interest. I think there's a lot of buying interest at this level from many different ways of looking at the market. I think there's a lot of people in there that I think will be pretty heavy buyers on the tests of those mid 70s. And then last, this is the chart I had on Crown Show, and the main thing what I was looking at here was if this wants to keep the same pattern that it's been doing. I had this high here, so you had a high to high to high to high pattern on these little semicircles to measure each one of these highs, which puts us in September of 25 as a high area. And the other thing I was looking at here was I had the 21 and the 55 EMA, and the blue here is the 21 that crosses up through the 55. And what I did was I put this vertical line in here to kind of measure from the point of the crossover. So I guess you could take that as a bullish type crossover when the 21 crosses the 55, and vice versa. If it crosses down, you get the bearishness going the other way. But I'm looking at the upside at this point, and you get the crossover here, and here it took 92 bars to get there on that. And then this one crossed over here, and this one took 111. So if you take the 92 and the 111, this falls kind of in the middle of that, kind of the average of the last two post crossover and timing. I know it's weird, but I was just kind of looking at it. And then if you look at it from here, where we're at, we had that crossover right here on this vertical line right here, and has not crossed back down. Now I feel like if we break the shallow fib, we're going to get that negative or the downside crossover with the 21 going down through the 55, and then that would give us a lot more downside opportunity. But we do have this trend line in here that's holding. We got the moving average that's holding. We got the fib extension that's holding. There's a lot of support there. So if that ends up breaking, it could be really, really ugly to the downside if that breaks, because there's going to be a shit ton of stops, I would believe. But we'll see if that time comes. And then the other thing is the only other thing here is I had the trend line breaks, just looking for the objectives, and the 361, the 3618% level on every one of these hit that target. And then this target here would be 209. So if this wants to hold the pattern the way it has, September, maybe, by the end of September, then we should be at 209 by the end of September 2025. I know that's lofty with the way things look right now, but you just never know in this freaking market.
Well, and we know historically Bitcoin can really take off. I mean, we know that. It seems like a lot here. Numbers seem big, but at the grand scheme of things, I mean, where are we at right now? We're 82
1 right now.
Yeah, and you're looking at that. So you're looking at what? Not even a 200% on something like that.
Yeah. I'll show you. Like if you looked at like when this went up to this point right here, and then it rallied up to this point, you had 300% move right there. And then even if you took, this one didn't really quite make it to that point, but like I'm trying to think of like the next move up, like this one right here, just this move right here, this little move right here is 126%.
Yeah.
So if you move this over to where we're at now, and we start going up and rallying up to 209, we're only looking at 184. Which there was 126 and there was 300 on those last two moves to the upside to make those highs. So I don't see like it's out of the question, but it is a lofty goal at this point in time when the momentum's down everybody's kind of humdrum, not much going on. It could surprise you pretty quickly if the support ends up holding. So that's what I was kind of looking at from a timing perspective and a support perspective on Bitcoin. So that's where we're at. Just kind of a waiting game. Just hold out and see what happens. All right, let's move on to some other even more boring charts. Ethereum. I'm going to start backwards on this one. Ethereum on the weekly. See, this is the difference between Ethereum and Bitcoin. Ethereum's weekly went into the bear zone, and Bitcoin did not. So for me, I'm not looking for a target buy on Ethereum until it gets all the way down to 1133.80, which is down here on this trend line break to the downside, which matches the fib extension off of this low that came from the previous threshold, the start of the threshold there. So this would be my first line of defense, which kind of comes in close to these lows right here in this little order block area right here. And then you got, so that's my target on the weekly. So I'm not doing anything there. And that's why I haven't been trading the 4 hour or the daily, because I really don't want to do much. Now, I could have done the same kind of thing like on Bitcoin, buy this target and it did hit, and then you would have sold it at the shallow fib. So you could have made that trade. I did not. I don't know if anybody in my group did, but that target did hit. It actually hit twice. It hit, traded, hit, traded, if you wanted to do that. Just like I did on BTC on the 4 hour. I did trade the BTC twice. I could have done it on Ethereum, but I did not because that weekly being in the bear zone just kept me kind of on the back burner. I didn't want to to me, it was a little bit more risky, and I didn't want to mess with it. So this one, I'm waiting for a bull zone. And then, Ethereum on the daily, same kind of thing. This is really ugly. We got still bear zone, momentum's with the bears. This was my first line of defense. It came down and it tried, and then it tried again, but then it said, nah. And then it came back up, and then sellers are kind of at that spot at the bottom of this extension now. So this leaves open a lot of movement to the downside. So I don't even want to touch it. So for me, Ethereum, I'm really waiting for this to come down to this 1133. And that's why I put this dotted line right here is the 1133 on that weekly. And that's kind of where I would look at if I want to buy in the bear zone while we're in the bear zone and the weekly being as ugly as it is. Not there, down here. At basically that 1133 area. It says 1120. You know what I mean? Yeah. It says 1129, but it's whatever that. It is 1129. I just have the line wrong on there. All right, that's Ethereum. Gold. This has been the savior. I've been trading gold, and it's been great. Gold's been good. Yeah, it's been keeping the cash flow going while I'm being patient on all the other stuff. But yeah, I mean, bull zone hit the first target, came back down, hit a shallow fib, and then hit the next target. I mean, it's working perfectly. I got out a little early just because I liked the position, and it was just a lot of profit fast. So I went ahead and got it anyway. So I got out a little early before it got up to the actual 200%, which I was fine with because I just wanted some cash flow for the month instead of just sitting around looking at the walls. So the target hit. So now the shallow fib on the gold on the 4 hour is set at 31.95, and I'll have a limit in there at that point. So if it comes down there and hits me, I'll get back in again. And then my target to the upside is that first line of defense. I don't really have a good spot to put here because we're getting into price discovery, and I can't really get a good gist of where I could put the target in there. So I'm going to be conservative and just say the bottom of the zone. So that will be my target for that.
And what level is that?
That is 33.2870.
Okay.
Is the level there? So basically 33.28 is probably where I'll put my target if I get bought. Now the other thing is if it doesn't correct back and gold wants to keep going on this nice little run, if we get 3-4 hour settlements above the 200%, which is at 32.5280, and right now we're currently above that, in another hour and a half, if it stays above that, we'll get the first settle above that level. Then if we get 2 more 4 hours consecutively, I'll buy it to ride that same trend and have that same target. So if it gets 3 settles above, then the target will be 33.28, regardless if it corrects back or if it gets those 3 settles above that, because that's my that's my filtering to move that level from a resistance to a support.
Yeah.
And then gold on the daily has also been rocking and rolling. A little crazy. You got in back here on the bull zone. There's been a couple of trades in here, but if you were long and it came down on this hard move to the downside, you're probably freaking out. But it did not go back into the bull zone. It actually maintained a bullish structure, and then we've been rallying since then. So if you ended up buying at the time, the shallow fib was right here, so that would have been that was the buy right there, which I did buy, but I got out yesterday, just because the cash flow was just it was just too good not to and plus the weekend's coming. I don't want to hold that over the weekend. But if you are long still at that shallow fib, the target up here for this one is at 32.95 is where the target is for there. So if you're still long, then there is a target to be had up there at 32.95 if you want to hold it out. But bull zone's happening on gold. So gold's been kind of the cash flow savior, along with SPY if you hit it right. Those are the two that I've taken profit on, regardless of all these other things that really haven't been doing much. Dollar. I haven't been touching the dollar. I've been bearish as snot with the dollar. So I got a target now at 96.51 that I don't even want to. I mean, we are getting a little bit of divergence here.
Yeah.
So this could be the spot, which actually is lined up pretty well. I'm not trading it, but this could have been a good buy right here because it matched up with the extension off this trend-based extension, and that's nice when it hits that extension and holds perfectly. And then it just kind of pops up from there. If you did buy, the shallow fib is at 100.71, and that would be the sell while you're in the bear zone to take profit. But other than that, I'm not really touching it. I'm just kind of watching it and seeing how far down this thing can actually go, as it's just been bearish for a while.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, I'm loving the DXY. It's doing what I've been talking about it doing for a while here.
Yep.
And once we were up there around that 108 up there, looking for that reversal and for it to break down, we got that. We were looking down initial kind of target getting there around that 99 to 100 area.
Yep.
So for me, I'm excited. It's been a great kind of setup there. But yeah, I'm with you, man. Overall, it should be heading lower into the 90s. Overall, I mean, we'll probably get a decent bounce here, I think. But
yeah, in due time. Yeah. I mean, if you really think about it, it's kind of you almost got to kind of get above this level or even this trend line here. Yeah, you still got a lot of work to do before it even gets above these trend lines, which right now it doesn't look like it's going to reach, but you just never know. But yeah, I'm still pretty bearish on this. I mean, the divergence here is probably enough to give you that trade that you want in this to get it up into this area, and then it'll probably crater after that. But keep an eye on it. Well, it's a good one to follow. But like you said, the one thing I like to see is when we have the setups, they're actually coming and hitting the spots where they should hit. Yeah. And that gives us confidence that pattern should continue until you start to see some signals otherwise. And right now we're not seeing any. SPY. This one was weird. I got stopped out on this one. There was a couple of trades. I got a couple of trades in, but then this last one I just did ate me up a little bit because this went into the bull zone right here. And then you set your fibs. I had to wait for 3 settles above this 38.2% level. So this first one was really big. The second one was even bigger, moving up higher. But the third one brought me down to right here, and I bought right at that point. But then one thing I do on this is it gets close to a weekend is I kind of bypass my threshold theory and I just put in more of a percentage stop, I guess you would call it. I'm only willing to risk this percentage in this market prior to a weekend because I don't want to get down to a certain level like it is right now. Like if we went all the way down here and where we're at the moment and the amount of money that I'd be down at the moment, with it still being in the bull zone going into a weekend, it's just not my cup of tea. So I ended up putting a stop in here underneath this low and ate me up a little bit. So I got stopped out. So I'm just kind of not trading this at the moment because the daily is still in the bear zone, and I really want to see this get back into the bull zone to really get me a lot more comfort of buying that 4 hour with some confidence. Otherwise, with this being in the bear zone, I got a 47.30 target down here that I've been waiting to see. Almost got it on this move. This move here got to 48.32, so we had to go with like another 100 points, which is a lot. But when you're moving down this hard and this fast, it definitely could have hit. But then we rallied up and still in the bear zone. Not much going on here, just very bearish. And again, if you put this trend line in, you got to kind of get above this level here to even get above the 61.8% level here. I have a bull zone at 61.62, which is way up here. It's way up here, which is crazy. So to me, this huge volatility all over the place is kind of messing things up. So that's why whenever this kind of stuff happens, I kind of take a back seat and really wait for my bread and butter is basically wait for the bull zone or wait for those downside extension targets. Otherwise, I really don't want to mess with it anymore. And as everybody's like, jumping off cliffs and going crazy and tariffs on, tariffs off, and social media going ballistic. Oh, we're going to the moon. Oh, we're going to hell. We're going to the moon, going to hell. All of that, I don't even have to listen to it. I'm just going to watch this go back and forth all at once until it gives me a signal otherwise.
There you go. There you go.
But again, it comes back to the patience, and go on my Twitter and read that quote. It'll be a good reminder that patience is a position. I like to look at it that way. Because doing nothing is a position. Sometimes it just depends on what you're doing. And then the last three I got, how much time I got? About 8 minutes. The last three are MicroStrategy or strategy. Sorry, they need to change their
already, right? Yeah.
And then Tesla and Coinbase, and they pretty much all have the same picture, and that's why I really haven't been doing much on this either, because with SPY and a lot of these markets still in the bear market on the daily, and still a lot of downside. This is still relatively in a bear market for me on the daily basis here. Still bear zone, not a lot of momentum, a lot of consolidation, this back and forth. So to me, I don't, with this breaking down here, I don't have a target until all the way down to 146, which is just crazy. So in other words, you're not doing anything until it goes into a new bull zone, or unless this market just absolutely crashes, which you just never know. I mean, we could. If S&P gets knocked down another 15 to 20% for some crazy ass reason, this could easily come down to this point. So I'm waiting out for a bull zone on this. So just kind of wait and hold and wait. And when you look at this pattern, you're going to see the exact same thing on all these other ones on why I'm holding. Tesla, same thing. Comes down, pops back up, shallow fib area is resistance, still working its way to a target down here. There was a trend line break here that had some nice support to it. So that's kind of my target within the fib extension zone for making the lows here. So once it broke this low down in here, and this shallow fib is resistance, this target here at 167, which is it's just crazy downside opportunity. So again, I'm just going to wait for a bull zone and get back in this once it gets back into that bullish structure. And then even on Coinbase, same kind of look. Still the bear zone. Got real close here a couple of times when it tried to break here, but it didn't. Stayed in the bear zone. Still bearish. ADX is just into the 20s, and the bears are in control there. So shallow fib is still going to act as resistance with a target to the downside at 114. Just like the other two, pretty far down. So I won't be looking to get long again until it gets back into the bull zone, which is most likely going to be back above the 61.8% level at 217. Tesla is going to be at probably around 314. And then this one is about 314. Are they about the same price? That's kind of crazy. MicroStrategy and Tesla, they're coming together. It's all the big convergence of life. That's the
There it
simulation.
is, right?
That's the simulation that we're living in right there. Is when these two converge.
Elon and Sailor.
Yeah, exactly. But that's all I got. All my trades right now are just those 3 10% tranches on BTC, 2 at 78.4, 1 at 75.4 for an average of 77.4. In the money. Let's rock and roll, baby. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, I love it, and we're looking here. And again, I think the key thing here is for traders just to kind of be patient, right? You're going to have to wait it. We're sideways. But, especially when it comes to Bitcoin, we do have some things that appear to be working in our favor. We do have those slightly lower lows and lower highs that we've been doing for weeks now here around that 80,000 level, the 75,000 level.
Yep.
And again, when you have that big move off the all-time high coming down and you start getting it where it's just slightly lower, that's telling you that demand's showing up. So I think we've got that's good. We're on that pivot as far as that goes as well, which is also good. I believe that's the yearly pivot, which we've pulled back to. Nothing's happened yet to send us down. It could, but right now I like the way it's looking at the moment. So we'll see if we can get some follow through up on that. And I think if Bitcoin's doing that, I think we see the S&P and whatnot heading up as well with it. So
cool.
Meanwhile, I mean,
oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, you're talking about volatility, man. It was crazy. We did the live trading at the academy there on Mondays and Tuesdays and Thursdays.
I'm sure that was fun.
Man, it's been volatile. We trade like the 1 minute chart, and it's been volatile all week long.
Oh my gosh, that had to be crazy.
Monday was insane.
On a minute chart?
The 1 minute chart, man. We watched the S&P rally something like 115 points in like 2 minutes or something. Like, it was just stupid.
Wow.
But we managed to make really good money.
That's the goal. Good deal.
But again, the whole reason we do that is not so people can kind of copy trade. I mean, they can obviously if they want to, but the real reason is, we have the lessons. You and I have lessons in there. I do weekly classes, but the live trading is that one part where they can get in there and go, okay, well, how does all this happen in real time? How do you really look at charts and decipher what you're doing, especially if I want to scalp or day trade, which a lot of people seem to want to do. And that's what we do. It's a big reason, why we do that. But that Monday, man, it's been a while since I've seen on that smaller time frame, seeing the S&P move like that. And, it just showing them that you just have to be patient, wait for your time, and then go in.
Yep. You mentioned something earlier, and when you're trading the minute chart, even if you don't want to, mirror the trades, even if you just went and watched, it's almost like it's kind of the way I learn things. Like if I'm wanting to learn the guitar, and if I'm watching somebody else play the guitar, and I see how their hands are positioned, and I just look, and I'm that fly on the wall, and if I'm just in there watching the trades, and I'm not even doing them, but I'm learning by watching what you guys are doing. You can learn so much just from that. And then you can go back and take the knowledge that you're learning from that and apply it to the lessons you're learning in the different areas. If you're learning certain things like Elliott wave or Wyckoff moves, or you can take all of that knowledge together and kind of converge it. So even if you don't trade at all in those really, really, really tight time frames, you could learn a lot just by being a fly on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. When I was learning how to trade, coming up 30 years ago, my biggest thing was, how do I translate what I'm getting in theory from what I'm learning to actually how does it work real time in the markets? And, that's what we're trying to do there, so
cool.
Hopefully it is. But I know you've got to go here, man.
Yeah, unfortunately, I got to run, but it was a great 50 minutes.
Yeah, man. Hey, we appreciate you being here, buddy, as always. And I guess we'll see you probably in about 2 weeks, huh?
Yep.
Or you guys can join us at texaswestcapital.com. Get on in there, and you can see Fibbo every day and me
and talk
every
to
day
me and ask questions and all that jazz.
Coffee, virtual coffee.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, man.
All right,
hey, I appreciate you.
Thanks, Chris. All right, I'll take off. Everybody have a good day, good weekend.
Take care, man.
Yep.
There we go. I don't know what I'm doing here, guys. But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed that with Fibbo. It's always a good time with him coming in here, and giving his thoughts on the markets. A lot of times, the way that we look at the market, even though it's different, tend to align, and those seem to be the best times. Whether we're looking at targets or we're looking at rejection areas or whatever, if something that Fibbo's saying and something that I'm saying are generally aligning, usually that's a pretty good sign. So, he was looking at the 86 and some change level. I'm looking at 88.5 as far as the kind of, if we can break through there, that's a good first clue that low may actually be in. And so, it's right there around that same area. And, I'm going to be watching that. I know we've got everybody over at the Academy watching it as well. But yeah, so that's going to do it, guys. I mean, that'll be it here. If you haven't yet checked out forkednations.com, we have a little issue with the publisher. It was supposed to go live last weekend, but it looks like it'll finally be live either today or this weekend. So it's great times. It's my first anthology set from the protocol universe. We're going to have our first mainline novel is going to launch on the first day of the Bitcoin conference, May 27th. That's called the Cold Wallet Protocol. And so we've got a lot of stuff that's going to be going on between now and then with the different series and books and things that we've got going on. Basically, in case you're wondering what it is, the best way to think about it is this is the stuff that Jason Lowery couldn't write, right? Everything that we're exploring in here in this series of books is all these key things to Bitcoin, right? Sovereignty, decentralization, freedom, all these concepts are explored through all these stories, as well as, and especially in relation to what Jason Lowery wrote in his book, Soft War. If you guys have not read Soft War, I definitely think you should. If you're only in Bitcoin for the price, I think Soft War will really kind of open up your mind. When people talk about, Bitcoin mining being able to help stabilize electricity grids and stuff like that, and he goes into really great depth on what it is as far as that goes. And in case you don't know, he's a major in the Space Force here in the U.S. now. But he wrote basically his master's thesis was Soft War. But he was in on I think a DoD scholarship or something like that. And basically, when you're in on a DoD scholarship, your master's thesis is basically, intelligence for them, right? You're writing for the DoD. And so if you ever read Soft War, it's legitimate the way he looks at it and what's going on in there. And I think it's probably why it was taken off the shelf pretty quickly after he first started selling it. It was off for over a year. You can get it now if you want. You go to Amazon. It's called Soft War, SOFTWAR. His name is Lowery, LOWERY. But yeah, the whole it's a thriller, espionage, all this kind of stuff. The whole universe is, but we don't do stupid things with the Bitcoin itself, right? Everything that's in that are in these books and in these stories are based off what is real with Bitcoin. What can Bitcoin really do? We don't do this stuff like, oh, they can change all this and change all that, and these things mysteriously happen. No, we don't do that. It all stays true to the Bitcoin white paper, the geopolitical stuff and whatever in there are taken out of are based off ideas in Soft War. So if you really like Bitcoin and you're really looking at some fictional looks at what could potentially happen or how this could happen or things like that, I mean, I think it's a great place to get involved in there. Okay. So anyway, I'm really excited about it. To get that out there. We're gonna have a really strong kind of publishing timeline going forward because we got a lot of stuff. I'll tell you what, I've got another book in this universe coming out in probably, again, this first mainline one's going to come out May 27th. Fork Nations will be out here hopefully this weekend. But there is an event that takes place after this first book, and that'll be out probably September or October, I guess. And if you guys watch Beards and Bitcoin, myself, Andrew, and Tillman, we always talk about the way Bitcoin's likely headed and these ideas. And at one point, more than a few months back, Tillman made a comment about how BlackRock could essentially get enough Bitcoin and then go, oh, hey, here's a forked chain off Bitcoin, but this is the real Bitcoin now. and how that would, with their big marketing and everything, he got so much hatred for that, right? He got there was so much vitriol in it when he said that. But, again, it's nothing that can't happen. And so actually, this book that's going to be coming out there in September, October, takes a look at that thing potentially happening in this protocol universe. And how would that play out? What do you do? So again, these aren't like way off out there kind of ideas. It's really cool fictional writing, thrillers and whatnot, but the concepts, the ideas, the things we look at are real. And so if this stuff actually happens at any point, I'm not from the future. I don't know. Don't be getting on to me about it. It's just fiction. But we really have fun, really having fun exploring those ideas with it. Okay. So let me see here. Troy, what's up? He says, I'm looking forward to those books, Chris. I know most people tune in for the charts, but I like this art angle you're going with. Where do you find time to write? It's my only free time. Yeah, it really is. Literally, if I'm not doing TWC work during the day or during the night, I'm writing, I'm working on the website, I'm doing all this stuff. I haven't been to bed before like midnight, 1 o'clock for like weeks and weeks now. Because it's exciting. It's fun. Let me see here. What'd you say there, Mark? Sorry, the truth stings. What competition, Revy? You're saying is the competition still open? Let me know what you're asking about there. Fibbo, what's up, buddy? Always good to see you. Fibbo, you just missed Fibbo. He was in. He couldn't stay the normal hour and a half. He had to jump out of here and do his thing. He had a important call to get onto, so. But anyway, guys, jump over there, do it. Even if you're just interested maybe in checking out some free stories along the way, go over and get signed up at forknations.com. We're going to have a thing there that you can be a part of that's free, and we'll be dropping stories each month as well on that as going on there. So, you heard there's a competition for tickets on Beers of Bitcoin? Yeah, that's over, man. That was Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, I believe is what Andrew said. It wasn't for Beards of Bitcoin. It was for their company, Arch Public, and they were giving away 2 industry passes to the Bitcoin conference. And you had to download their Bitcoin algorithm, which is free, at archpublic.com, and then you had to follow them at Try Arch Public. But if anybody did that, you'll be finding out before too long whether you won or not. So hopefully you guys are tuning in on Wednesdays. Again, we try to look at other sides of Bitcoin other than just price. We try to look at how it's, involved in the global financial system. And like I said, the one thing earlier, about, hey, what if, BlackRock were to get enough in its IBIT, its IBIT ETF, even though it's not theirs, they control it, right? You get enough in there, you control consensus, or maybe you fork it and, and they've got a huge marketing arm. And everybody knew coming in, all of a sudden it's like, oh, here's the real Bitcoin, and BSB tried that, but they didn't have that same kind of marketing, that same kind of muscle. So, we tend to say things sometimes that piss people off, but it's never in this idea that that Bitcoin's bad or that it shouldn't be or whatever. It's always with this idea that, listen, there are some possibilities out there, things that could happen, and we have to be realistic about it. So yeah. You heard the runner-up gets 1 XRP. I'm gonna let Tillman know that you said that. So anyway, yeah, there you go, guys. So listen, I'm gonna get out of here. As always, remember the only thing you control is how much you lose. Okay, so please keep working on that risk management. Troy says, what you said in theory, could they actually do that? Fork it or own enough of the supply and crash? Well, they couldn't crash the market, so to speak. I mean, they can't sell out of their ETF unless, unless because it's not theirs in the ETF, right? I mean, the ETF holds it, but it has to be bought and sold in accordance with people buying and selling into the ETF. So it's not like, they could just sell whatever they wanted out of that. But they could definitely fork. They could definitely fork Bitcoin. And again, BlackRock, has a significant marketing side to it. It's a very powerful company. Them, what is it? Them, Vanguard, and State Street, basically the huge ones out there. And so, Yeah, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but to say that it couldn't happen is kind of silly, especially if if forking it was to their benefit, right? So yeah. Anyone can fork anything. That's right. Anybody can fork anything. The thing is, again, it's like BSV, right? I know I was going to get out here, but let's talk about this real quick. So, BSV, they went there, oh, this is the real Bitcoin. This is the real Bitcoin, right? And so they forked it, and that's what they said, but they didn't have the marketing, the kind of marketing muscle and global dominance that BlackRock does, right? BlackRock, if they were to do it, then things really get interesting because they do have that, right? They are significant. Now they wouldn't do it just to do it. They would do it if it benefited them for, some reason that they couldn't do with Bitcoin itself as it sits right now. But anyway, yeah, so we're going to take a look at that in that book coming out here in September or October. So in case you guys are wondering, this first one coming out, Cold Wallet Protocol on May 27th, is the first in the tetralogy. But I think you're going to like the way it's designed. It's not 4 books in order, so it's pretty cool. The other one coming out is the first book in a trilogy coming out there in September, October, which will take place within the first tetralogy's timeline. So a lot of really cool stuff going on there. The Mr. from BSV is also the real Satoshi. That's what he would make you think, right? Did you see those old posts of the Bitcoin logo on a game from '91 that Hal Finney worked on? No, I didn't. Do you have a link to that? Oh, I guess you can't put a link in here though, can you? Well, you can if you do it with a space between the dots, right? I'll look it up, man. I'll look it up. I'll Google it. That sounds pretty cool. No, I didn't see it then. But anyway, that'll do it, guys. So we're out of here. Peter, you're late, buddy. Fibbo's gone. He had something to get to do, and so I'm out of here. As always, remember, the only thing you control is how much you lose, folks. Please keep working on that risk management. Like I said, check out forknations.com. Sign up for that email list there so we can get you let you know what's going on and the free stuff and all that's going on there. Other than that, if you want to join in with Fibbo and I and Andrew and Vince, head traders over there at TWC, you can do so at texaswestcapital.com. I really find it hard to think that you would regret even 1 month with TWC. I've never heard anybody regret it, and I've been doing this for going on 8 years now with the company itself. So, take a chance, jump on it. It's not too bad, and we're really friendly folk. Regardless, there's a ton of stuff for you to learn along the way, even if all you want to do is spend a month in there. All right, y'all have a great weekend. Trade safe. Look at that. Peter says, worth every penny. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate you. And we'll catch you guys next Wednesday. Beards and Bitcoin, okay? And by the way, guys, I am working on potentially getting out to the Bitcoin conference. So if you're going to be there in Las Vegas next month, at the end of next month, let me know. I'm trying to make it happen. And so if I am, I'd love to meet up with you guys, all right? All right, y'all take care. We'll see you next time.